Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the Township of Wainfleet regular council meeting of October 5th, 2021 to order. And I'll ask everyone if please remove any headwear and we'll stand for our national anthem. I would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is a traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples, acknowledging the One Bowl and Spoon Treaty. And I'll look to Council now for any disclosures of pecuniary interest, general nature thereof. Seeing none. Move to presentations. None. Mayor's remarks. Please note that the meeting proceedings are being broadcast live, recorded, and made available through the Township website and youtube.com. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Lindsay Earle, sitting here in the front. She's our new Manager of Community and Development Services. Lindsay brings a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we are very excited to have her on our team. And I've already, in discussions with her, I'm already very impressed with what she's bringing to the table, so welcome. Our arena opened this past weekend. We appreciate everyone's patience as we work to provide our community with great service and maintain compliance with provincial regulations for COVID. We have 4 scheduled vaccine clinics in Wainfleet during the month of October, starting on the 6th, that's tomorrow, and with the remaining clinics scheduled for the 13th, the 23rd, and the 27th. Regional Council will meet virtually on Thursday, October 21st at 6:30 p.m. We have a special meeting of council scheduled for Tuesday, October 19th at 7 p.m. related to the Central Fire Station project. And our next regular meeting of council will be held Tuesday, October 28th at 7 p.m. And being on the Police Services Board, we have a meeting there on October 28th at 8:30. And I look to any of the councillors for any comments or remarks. Councillor Cridland, yes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I've just got a few NPCA updates. The regular one, that the next NPCA board meeting will be virtually on Friday, October 15th at 9:30. And then the rest of the updates are on floodplain mapping, particularly for our Big Fork Creek. So I just wanted to continue to make the public aware. There was a public meeting on an open house on September 8th. That was the first one. That's now on video, and it's on the NPCA website. There's now been a presentation made as of today from the results of that open house, and those results are also now or will be on the NPCA website. And also within the township, you may notice people measuring and, survey sticks start to come out. So again, there will start to be activity measuring the watershed, and that's over an awful large part of Wainfleet. So all those details and more will be on the NPCA website, so I encourage anybody to reach out if they've got any questions or concerns. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from councillors? Okay, seeing none. Move on to the adoption of our previous minutes. Are there any comments or corrections on those minutes? Okay, seeing none, a motion that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held September 14, 2021 be adopted as circulated. Mover and seconder for that, please. Councillor Quillen and Councillor Gilmore. Any discussion on those minutes? Okay, seeing none, we don't have to do a recorded vote, so all in favor of receiving those? And that is carried. Fantastic. Okay, we move into our delegations. Now we have a number of delegations, and our first delegation I would invite up to the podium, please, is Shen Sivananathan, and a request for council to permit encroachment of internet antenna on Township Road allowance. He submitted the delegation to speak, and push the button, sir, and the floor is yours.
All right. Hello, Mayor, and hello, councillors. Good evening. My name is Shen Sivananthan. I'm a new resident with my wife and our one-year-old child from Toronto. We moved here to Wainfleet, so very excited about it. We actually moved at the end of June, and you've probably read the document that was shared earlier. We moved to the new area, and we're kind of quite surprised at the fact that there are no internet options where we are. Like, actually blown away that this is something that you have to even consider. And so I went through like many hurdles to find options, from LinkedIn messaging people to calling about 14 different providers. Enwick was finally one that was able to support us by putting up a tower on our property there. And so for us, we both work from home. I work in venture capital. My wife works in the cosmetic industry. And so working online and having the ability to video conference is paramount for us. And so you, again, have probably read the document there, but after, I was quite surprised to see like the McAvoy family here. And I know that is something that is very important to the family. And, you know, it sounds like this tower is on the road allowance. Like that's really the bottom line. It was something that we didn't realize. However, it was brought to our attention by Mary Barchese. And so I think that originally I thought my conversation was between us as residents and the Township of Wainfleet. But after seeing the family here, I'm quite surprised. And so like two of the folks that are here were actually at our wedding. And like this is something that we definitely don't want to cause like any disruption to the community in any way, shape, or form. So I'm actually would like to withdraw my appeal. And so we will be moving the tower onto our property as it is on the allowance now. And really just looking for a couple of weeks to get that done. But I'm just pulling that out there. So sorry for kind of wasting everyone's time here, but thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. Good move on your part. Thank you very much for being proactive about that and taking that initiative. That's a great Wainfleet community sense there of realizing that you made a small mistake, and I understand fully. The internet thing was something I was shocked by as well. I moved from an extremely high area to nothing, so I understand. Okay, so I guess we need a motion to receive that report, please. Councillor McClellan seconded. Councillor Gilmore, any questions of our speaker? So that motion is Councillor McClellan. Oh yeah, your mic's not on, sorry.
Sorry about that. I would suggest that we maybe give them a month if that works for you. It's the fall, it's bad weather.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll try.
If you think that's what it is, and if it works out, you can't get somebody to do it. I don't have a problem if it takes 6 weeks, quite frankly, but it's going to get moved. You're doing it voluntarily.
For sure. Like I'll do it as soon. I'll make calls tomorrow. So
your only issue may be trying to get the company lined up to come and move it. That may be the only inhibitive factor. So
correct.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Okay, so a month on that motion then. Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
I actually have a quick question myself. So right now we were using a driveway that belongs to our neighbors, and so I obviously don't want to have to do that again. And so would we be able to use a road allowance, or like how would we get up there? It's like on a hill area.
What you need to do there is come speak to our staff here at the office. And before you get all the concrete poured, make sure you're working in the right area and doing things properly. And we're more than happy to help you out there and make sure it all gets done, so it saves you having to do it 2 or 3 times.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, just come to the front. Councillor McClellan.
I'm not sure. Is there a permit required to put up a tower like this? Just so then Richard would be able to look at it and say, and Dave to say that this is going in, just
Yeah, but
not
just
sure.
look to the CAO for that, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the best of my knowledge, there are no municipal permits that are necessary because they are regulated by the federal agencies regarding telecommunications. There may be some telecommunications requirements associated with siting those towers, and I'm not sure if the delegation spoke to, contacted or dealt with them prior. But if the best thing you could do is touch bases with us tomorrow morning or when it's convenient, and we'll be able to sort of help you out. And likewise, you may want to touch bases with the neighbors regarding sort of access to the existing tower and how that's going to work out. But by all means, we can talk at the office tomorrow.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay, any other discussion or questions?
Through you.
Councillor McClellan?
Yeah. I'm not trying to be a pain. I just don't want to see you move it a second time.
Yeah, I appreciate
Right,
that. Thank
so-
you so much. No, that's
Yeah, that's all. We're not picking on you.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you very
Don't
much.
want to see you move it twice or 3 times, so.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay, so the motion is then that that appeal is withdrawn, and you have 30 days, a month, to have that moved. Any other discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome
Yep.
to Wainfleet. Welcome back to
Welcome.
Wainfleet.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have Mary Barchisi. And I guess, actually, in a sense, I know some people are going to speak against this. It may be a moot point, but you're certainly welcome to have your presentation time, 10 minutes.
Is this on? Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to speak, and I'd like to thank Shen and Laura for their addressing the tower on my mother's property. So I was going to speak tonight, but right now there's no need to speak. But I'd like to say that we're very willing to work along with them, and what we may be able to do is identify the area of my mother's septic system and see if we can somehow work along with you to remove the tower and help you in any way to get another tower up. I'm here with my 2 brothers tonight representing my mother, and we definitely like to think that we're very good neighbors and work along with the group. In talking to the people at Camelot, we too are very concerned about the internet in the area. I know a letter was written with regards to that. Unfortunately, when Shen started on his plight to talk to people, the people at Camelot never really got a knock. So we just want to let you know that we're very supportive of this, and the people at Camelot would like to request some kind of delegation if that's what we're looking for. We are really in quite a bad way with the internet, and we're willing to work along with Wainfleet to look at some solutions, because even my husband and I, during COVID, we could not have our grandchildren to the house to homeschool them, so we actually had to drive to Grimsby every day. So if there's something that we could look at, and it's a very dead area, we would be very much appreciated. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you. A mover, seconder to receive that report, please. Councillor Gilmore, Councillor McClellan, and discussion. And if I may, or anybody else first? The internet has been a problem here for a long time. When I moved here, I also went from great internet to no internet. In the last 2 years, we have had probably 4 internet companies come speak to us, and they are all vying for that federal money that the federal government put out to increase internet in rural areas. It ranged from Bell going with a tower to another company going with cable right into your house and amazing speeds. They've had maps. I don't know if those maps are on our website or not, but it's being worked on, and we did a letter of support for all 4 of those companies to say that we as a township support them coming in, and we will support them in laying out fiber, the whole thing, whatever's needed. Internet is a vital service today. Believe it or not, the farmers use it like crazy for doing their businesses as well. Any business needs it. So it's a really an important thing. After COVID, things have quieted down in that sense, and we haven't had any conversation with them. But a year and a half ago, in where I live, and I live very rural, at the north end, I went and they came and gave us 25 gigs, and we can run everything we need now through one company. So that was Bell. I would suggest you call Bell. They do have a new program that's about a year. I went to the announcement of that probably 2 years ago now, and they are bringing that out. So it's definitely worth inquiring, and apparently NWIC has been helpful over here. So there are resolutions coming, I think, sooner than later. So, Councillor McClellan.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I know there is Bell High Speed at least to the end of Bessie Road. And recently, driving down Lakeshore Road, there's contractors pulling 3 parallel plastic pipes through the ground to doing directional boring. That is generally what they do for the internet. They don't run 3 gas lines beside each other for Bell. So I think somebody is working there now. If you go back and look along Lakeshore Road.
We've been in contact with Bell every month for the last 2 years because our line drops probably 17 times a month. And we've said to them, if our line is dropping, we should not have to pay for this. So each time they reduce our bill, and each month we call again. The dead zone is between Cement Road and Bessie, and my husband is in contact now. He now knows the top person in Quebec responsible for Bell. It took us 2 years with calls weekly and numbers of texts coming out and saying, when they come out, they say, your house is known throughout. They're only send VIPs to your house. And finally, after, 2 years, Paul? Minimum 2 years, they attached a satellite to our house, and our Bell is much better. But they won't do that for anybody unless you call every week. And it's very, very unfortunate. But there is a dead zone between Cement and Bessie, and they've indicated they're not coming. They have verbally said to us they are not coming. So that's very unfortunate.
Yeah, they have come to the office, and we've looked at maps, and Lakeshore is one of their areas that they are going to be increasing. I guess all I can say at this point is we have to have patience until it gets done. I went 3 years with no internet, and I just have to come to the library every day to do work. So it's going to come, but and we can phone these guys again. I'll put that on my list for next week.
I'd appreciate it. I know that you've received a letter from our neighbors at Camelot. They have 3 children. They bought a house in Welland to get the internet because that was on his way to work, and they now have sold that and bought a house in Port Colborne, and they just can't do it. All of our neighbors are from Toronto, and they can't work from their residence, and it's very, very sad.
Frustrating.
It is, especially because most people are working from home these days,
Right.
and during COVID it was tough for kids as well. So anything you can do is very much appreciated.
Okay, I'll put that on my list, and I'll make some phone calls next week to the contacts that we have. I'll have to dig out that information and see where they're at, because it was quite active there for a while, I think, when the federal government announced the big dollars to build the infrastructure, but it's been quiet for the last year. So it's a good time to knock on doors and see what I can do.
We would very much appreciate that, because the message that we have received from Bell is they're not coming. That was what they said. We can't do it.
Okay.
So anything you can do would be very much appreciated. And I know that there's a contingency along our area if we need to put a delegation together, whatever. Everybody's willing to work together to move this forward, whatever that takes.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other discussion or questions on that? Okay, it's on the floor. Councillor Cridland.
Through you, Mayor, I'll just indulge. I can sympathize. I'm in that zone as well, so I know it to be very poor service. So thank you on behalf of all of us.
Yeah, like I say, I experienced it as well. Okay, so the motion is on the floor. So to receive that report from Mrs. Barchisi, No other discussion? All in favor of receiving it? Opposed? And that is received. Thank you very much. Do we have one more delegation? All right, Mr.
What is this? Well, what is this?
Okay, so we have a last-minute request to delegate from Corrado Scandolari, and because it's not on the agenda, we have to have council vote on that. So is there a motion to allow Mr. Scandolari to speak? Made by Councillor Gilmore, seconded by Councillor Van Vliet, and all in favor of allowing this, and that is carried. Mr. Scandolari, you have 10 minutes. The floor is yours. Thank you.
The button was okay. Again, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I did, however, submit my request a couple of weeks ago. Regardless, in 2017, we purchased a house in Wainfleet on Regional Road 27. At that time, the house had not been assessed by MPAC. We proceeded to build a two-car garage shop on the property. That build started late 2017, November, December. And we completed that build, I'm going to say mid to the end of 2018, around the same time that MPAC contacted me to come and do the assessment on the home. So I made arrangements to meet with the gentleman because we have a dog, and he came by, didn't want to pull in because the dog was there. So long story short, I met with him. He then seen the shop and asked if the shop was completed. I said it's 99%, I just needed the permit to be signed off, and the shop was done. So he proceeded to say, well, do you mind if I do the assessment on the shop while I'm doing the house? Obviously it made sense, so he did it. He went away. Sometime later, we were assessed, and we got our new tax assessment from Wainfleet for the home. And at the time, I assumed for the shop, because both assessments were done at the same time. Well, clearly I was wrong. So my taxes come in for 2018, I believe it was. They were assessed at whatever they were at the time. It was around $8,000, $7,000. I paid the back taxes to get me up to speed, and all was good. I pay my taxes 2019, 2020, 2021 comes. 2 weeks before I think I'm paying my last tax bill, I get a supplementary tax bill in the mail for apparently the shop. I get one for 2019 for $1,300 and change. I get one for 2020 for $1,400 and change. And I get one for 2021 for $1,500 and change. All looking to be paid by December 15th. I mean, first of all, it makes no sense to me at all that I should be responsible for MPAC holding on to an assessment that was done 3 years ago. That's number one. Number two, when we moved to Wainfleet, we were a two-income family. COVID has pretty well shut my wife's business down in 2019, and it has yet to start back up. Being a service industry business, yoga, clearly, she still can't start. And with the mandates now of vaccinations, all the rest of it, so we are still a one-income family now. It makes no sense to me that I should have to pay an additional $4,500 in taxes 2 weeks before I think I'm paying my last $2,000 tax bill. So I got no problem paying taxes, none. I mean, it's unfortunately a necessary evil. I'm not saying that I don't disagree that I agree that $10,000 is a reasonable tax bill for where I'm living, given the services that I have in Wainfleet. And don't get me wrong, I love Wainfleet. But the long story short is, I got no water, I got no sewer, I got no gas, and I got shitty internet. Oops, sorry. I got bad internet. I was just asking, and I believe I received an email from, I believe it was this gentleman, explaining the legalities behind why I got the bill. And I get that too. That's not why I'm here. I'm here more just as a resident and as a consideration given the times that we're at. I'll pay the taxes for 2021, but MPAC should pay the ones for 19 and 20 because they're the ones who held that assessment for 3 years. That's pretty much in a nutshell.
Okay, just stay there, sir, and we'll just receive that report. Mover and seconder to receive it, Councillor McClellan and Councillor Van Vliet, and discussion. So I know our CAO would be able to speak to this and how this works with MPAC. There are other situations like this, but I'll look to our CAO to explain it, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council. Again, I apologize, I don't have my notes before me, just because this is sort of an unexpected deliberation or discussion tonight. But just generally speaking, without getting into specifics, the assessment of properties in municipalities across the province is undertaken pursuant to the Assessment Act. And the billing of taxes is undertaken pursuant to the Municipal Act. So we've got two pieces of provincial legislation that sort of establish the framework around which tax assessments and tax billings are done. Together, those provincial laws provide the limitations, if you will, for assessments and taxation. And I guess the key operating principle, because Mr. Scandalari is not the first individual, either in Wainfleet or in other municipalities in the province, to construct something a couple years ago, and then there's a lag between the time that assessment is completed and forwarded to the municipality to formally assess the taxes associated with that new construction that happened years back. I think in my email to Mr. Scandalari, I had mentioned that it certainly is not a normal situation, and the province anticipated that when they were drafting the laws, and sort of put in a caveat saying that municipalities can only go back 3 years. It's the current year plus 2 prior years in history in order to charge those old, say, omitted taxes that weren't collected at the time. I think Mr. Scandalari mentioned that he actually had completed the house, or the house was completed around 2017, and then the garage shop structure, and again, if memory serves correct, it was sort of a 2-story or a story and a half, or sort of a larger garage structure.
Yes, loft garage.
Yeah.
With a shop upstairs.
Fair enough.
Yes.
But that was completed in 2018, and during that 2018 to 2021 period, Mr. Scandalari, and the way the laws works is the province looks at that period as time during which the property owner is benefiting from having that structure in place and using that structure, and as such, it's accessible for taxation purposes. But that notwithstanding, the municipality can only go back the current year and 2 years prior. So the year of 2018, when everything was done, we could not, and per the law, go back that far. And accordingly, the bill that I think Mr. Scandalari shared with council for the omitted garage structure, you'll note it goes back. There's a 2019 year, a 2020 year, and a 2021 year, being the sort of current year plus 2 years back that by law we're allowed to go. I think in my message to Mr. Scandalari, I mentioned that really we're sort of subject to the law. We don't have the sort of ability or leeway to not charge, and there's actually a specific section of the Act, and I think I included it in my email, but I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but it states that the municipality shall charge the current year plus 2 years in arrears. So we legally don't have the ability to do anything other than what we have done. Again, in accordance with the law, we're required to do that. Now, understanding that these are difficult times with COVID and everything else, One of the suggestions, I think that I included in my email, I hope I did, was that if there is additional time or additional arrangements that we can make administratively with you to address this, it's simply a matter of contacting staff and in the finance department and sort of sharing your situation with them. And I'm sure payment arrangements or extended payment timelines can be sort of accommodated. But from a sort of making MPAC pay or making somebody else pay, unfortunately, the law, the Municipal Act and the Assessment Act for that matter, are quite specific in that I don't think we have that flexibility to do that.
Well, you're telling me you don't have the flexibility to simply not charge me? So does part of that tax actually go to the government somewhere? Who does it go to? Let me pay that portion. Most of it stays in Wainfleet. It stays to pay the services in Wainfleet. And I get all that too. My point being here, I mean, I don't need a payment schedule. I have a line of credit. I can go get the money and pay it. That's not the point. The point I'm trying to make is that going back 3 years, I personally think is completely unreasonable. MPAC should be in some way on the hook. They should some way be on the hook, not to pay. I said that just out of, obviously they're not going to pay. But I shouldn't have to pay that burden now. That assessment, there's no reason why it wouldn't have come when he did the house. They were done the same day. The guy did them the same day. Why would it take 3 years to get here? I could understand it if they didn't do it till maybe late 2019 or something and it took a year. But why did my house one get in?
Sir, have you contacted MPAC and had discussions with them? Because really it's their,
Well, no, the bill came from Wainfleet. The bill didn't come from MPAC. The bill came from Wainfleet.
But your issue about them not assessing is...
Okay, so long story short here, you're telling me you can't do nothing about it because you're mandated to charge people property taxes. How much of that property tax goes anywhere but here? How much of it? Let me pay that. Tell me how much has to leave Wainfleet and I'll pay that. The rest of it stays in Wainfleet.
Okay.
So who's going to know I didn't pay it?
So, Mr. Scalandari, we're not into a debate on how much is being paid or how much is not being paid here this evening. You've pled your case. We've explained the law that we're following. If you have any follow-up, I would suggest that, as per our CAO's comments there, that you come in, make an appointment to speak with our accountant, and we'll see what we can do that way. No promises, but that's the way to do this. Debating it here isn't going to get anything done, and it's actually not proper. So,
Well, what would be proper then? I should have just came and spoke to somebody at the office as opposed to coming and
I'm
standing
asking you
here?
to make an appointment with our treasurer, come in and speak with our treasurer, and she'll be aware of the situation. And then we, look at it there and see what options, if any, are available to you.
Okay.
That's the proper route to go.
Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions, Councillor Cridland?
Thank you, through Mayor. And again, not specific to your delegation, sir, but it does help for us to hear that these things happen, and they do happen every now and then. So it is not a complicated process, but it's all time sensitive. So it's always good for us to be telling the public again how this happens and what the laws are around it. So thank you for taking the time to delegate. It does help.
Okay,
And
thank
we
you.
just look to the CAO for final comment here.
And just one comment again for the public that might be listening as well. In response to the question, what percentage of that bill leaves Wainfleet? And I don't have the exact number right in front of me, but it is over half that goes to the region and the school boards that service the township. So, a big portion of that bill is money that we have to remit to those other agencies. And if we don't collect that money, then the rest of the taxpayers in the township do have to sort of chip in to cover that bill for you. And again, as the mayor said, that sort of discussion certainly we can have with you face to face rather than in a meeting like this
Okay.
without having the right documentation.
That's fair enough.
Councillor McClellan.
Okay, so who am I calling to make an appointment with?
So just a sec, sir. Councillor McClellan.
So through you,
sorry.
Mr. Mayor, just so you know, when we campaigned, the subdivision off of Deeks Road, Marshville subdivision, I had 8 or 10 homeowners with the same complaint you had. They had been living in their houses almost 3 years and never received a tax bill from MPAC. So you think they were holding money every year, not knowing what their taxes were going to be.
Yep.
And they would tell me, we're throwing $8,000-$10,000 a year in a savings account because we're guessing at what we have to pay. But when it came in, they had to pay the bill, and you know it's.
I understand
I brought
that.
it up one of the first council meetings. I said, "How does this work?" But MPAC, I think if I understood it correctly back then, MPAC does this every 4 years, and they come around and they do a town, different towns, different cycles, and they do it every 4 years, and it took them that long to get there, and, you know, the
Well,
people,
I would understand that. However, they did the assessment the same day.
yeah, I know.
They
I
did the house
understand.
and the shop. That's the only reason I'm standing here.
Yep.
If they did the house separately and they did the shop a year and a half later, then I'd be paying a year and a half's worth of taxes.
So, Mr. Scandalari, if you'll call the office in the next day or two and you're looking to speak to the treasurer as Ms. Louie,
Okay.
L-U-E-Y, and we'll set something up for you and you can sit
Perfect.
down and see if we can work something out for
Okay,
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're discussion. So to receive that report, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to our admin staff reports. We'll look to our CAO to speak to the COVID report.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to council. I'm just trying to put my mind back to a meeting we had about 3 weeks ago, and during the COVID impact report at that time, I had mentioned that the new regulations regarding vaccinations in certain specific settings had just been released that day. So for council's information, this report does sort of highlight the specifics of that regulation that came out 3 weeks ago, and that are applicable in certain congregate settings and high contact potential areas, including things like the arena, our community halls, various meeting spaces, broader in the public sector, outside the public sector. It applies to places like restaurants and gymnasiums and certain other event places. So to that end, the township is complying with its obligations under the provincial regulation with respect to the operations of the arena, requiring that we have the necessary double vaccinations and screening in place to have people coming into those venues. I won't get into much other detail. I think the report speaks to the regulation and includes a copy, I hope, of the regulation. But the only other item of interest is that vaccinations continue to be a strong deterrent to the spread of COVID-19. And to that end, Niagara Public Health are continuing to have a number of clinics across the region, and particularly in Wainfleet as well. We basically have weekly clinics set up here in Wainfleet at the Firefighters Community Hall on October 6th, 13th, 23rd, and 27th. Again, we encourage all people to consider getting their vaccinations during those times. And even though the community hall is a designated setting requiring double vaccinations to get in the case of a vaccine clinic that's operating there, you don't need to be double vaxxed to get your vaccine. So please come out if you can. I think that is the gist of what I was going to suggest, and I'm ready to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you. Just the motion of mover seconder to receive ASR 25-2021 respecting COVID-19 impact report be received as information. Councillor McClellan and Councillor Cridland. Any discussion? Councillor McClellan.
Just one, what time of day are these clinics on the 6th to 13th?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't have the exact hours, but I believe it's 10 till 6. We can double check that, and, I'm seeing nodding heads, 10 a.m. till 6 p.m.
Just for somebody that doesn't have good internet.
Good point. Okay, any other questions or discussions? Okay, seeing none, the vote, please. In favor of receiving that report? Opposed? None? That is carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to our election planning, and again, we'll look to our CAO to speak to that, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the deputy clerk sends her regrets this evening, so I will attempt to speak to her report regarding elections and some of the pre-preparations that are currently underway in the clerk's department as we look forward to the election day, basically a year out from this month. So again, staff have commenced work on the election preparations. We're currently reviewing our past processes and making sure that they are up to date and current in light of some recent amendments to the Municipal Elections Act. One of the things that we've traditionally done here in Wainfleet is use an alternative voting method, specifically vote by mail, in conjunction with some polling places that we have open on voting day. And what is happening region-wide, particularly with respect to sort of COVID and its implications on some by-elections that have been held across the region over the last year or so, is that we are sort of piggybacking and sort of undertaking sort of a poll or a community engagement session to see if where the community stands on different voting methodologies. So again, vote by mail is something we've used traditionally, but in light of COVID and sort of the accelerated acceptance of Zoom and other electronic mediums, notwithstanding the sort of internet issues we have in some places, internet voting is actually becoming sort of popular province-wide and across the country. So what we're looking at doing is conducting a poll to sort of gauge the sort of interest of the community in looking at alternative voting methods. And we will be reporting back to council before the end of the year on the results of that sort of engagement and whether there's any real viable alternatives to vote by mail. And we'll obviously have that opportunity for council to provide some thoughts and direction on where we move from there. In addition to alternative voting processes, the report identifies some of the key dates for the upcoming election, including, for example, the opportunity for council to require a question to be put on the ballot to ask the electorate whether they have opinions on certain matters. The deadline for submitting such a question is March 1st. There are certain notice periods ahead of that have to be met, but if there is something that council wants to do or pursue or explore in that avenue, that now is the time to sort of start thinking about it, because there's really not a heck of a lot of time left from a timing perspective to do that. One other sort of opportunity that exists in council's realm of authority is to consider splitting the township into various wards. Again, Wainfleet with our current population and electoral population, and to some extent our sort of geopolitical makeup, we don't have any major urban centers. I mean, there are some communities of interest that exist throughout the township that, perhaps if we were a little more developed or had a sort of higher density of population or whatever, might warrant wards. But from a staff perspective, we don't see us as having reached that threshold yet. But if there is any interest, and I know I've been contacted by at least one individual who sort of was asking questions about that, if there is an interest from the township to look at sort of splitting into wards, that process is sort of laid out in this report as well. Staff would caution that really the time to do that is well in advance of an election, and really it would be an incredibly difficult job to get that done within the timelines currently. But if that is something that's of interest to council, that might be something you put into, for example, a multi-year plan. You set aside the appropriate budget allocations for that, and that might be something to sort of accommodate moving forward. That's about the extent of the report. The only other comment that I will make is that one of the things that we've been doing in the clerk's department is, again, reviewing prior elections. And as a result of that, we've identified some needs to make amendments to the township's election sign bylaw. We had to make some changes at the last minute last year, or last election, when the province introduced all these new third-party advertiser rules. We've worked through the last election with that bylaw and identified a variety of other sort of issues that came up that affected not only us, but other municipalities, some neighboring municipalities. And we will be bringing forward a report, if not at the next council meeting, then in November, recommending some housekeeping changes to the election sign bylaw to sort of address those issues that we came across. So that's all I have. I'll try to answer any questions.
Okay, we'll have a mover and a seconder, please, to receive for information ASR 26-2021 respecting the 2022 election. Councillor McClellan moves it and Councillor Van Vliet seconds it. Discussion? Councillor Cridland.
Thank you. That's an exciting subject for the township to be working on. When you talked about the different methods, and I'm sure this will be covered, but Wainfleet has a really, really great high percentage turnout, something that is probably one of the highest in the region. So whatever you're going to report back to us on how this lands, please include that metric for any kinds of decisions. And then, just in light of the whole delegation context tonight, if we're going to be reaching out on, perhaps internet voting, our methods of reaching out are appropriate. And again, I know that's going to happen, but I couldn't resist that one. And then the other thing about the ballot question, when you're talking about the wards, is that a kind of question, for example, that could be on a ballot? Is that in the realm, and I'm not suggesting that we do that, but just to get a sense of the kinds of questions maybe that we might think about for the ballot. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the input regarding the polling and all that sort of stuff, and definitely we'll take that into account. But with respect to question on the ballot, by all means, the idea of, for example, wards, that is a matter that is fully within the jurisdiction of the council to deal with at any time. So it's not a matter of provincial interest, and it is something that you can ask a question on. And the key thing with any sort of question that you place on the ballot, it has to be a very straightforward question that is easily answerable in a yes or no response. So if that is something that council wish to sort of pursue, then by all means, again, perhaps the way to start that off is the members of council can contact staff. We can sort of discuss the implications or opportunities and then move from there.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, it's on the floor. So we record our vote, please. All in favor of receiving that report for information? Any opposed? And that is carried. We go now to our building staff report, and I think we probably have Mr. Mathot available. Good evening.
Evening. So we have
I'm sorry, Dave, can't hear you very well at all. Very low volume. Try it again. Do a test.
Is that better? Or?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that. So we have a conditional permit agreement for some people that are looking to rebuild a house that was destroyed by the storms in, I believe it was 2019, on Beach Road West. They're looking to rebuild in the exact same footprint as the existing cottage. and in light of that, they aren't able to put the holding tank on that side of the road. They have property on the other side of the road, so they're looking to put the holding tank over on that side in order to fit everything on the property and meet the current building code setbacks. So in doing that, they need to get MOE approval because the road on that side is privately owned. So they've secured an easement to cross the road, but they need MOE approval to cross the property lines with the septic system. The other issue is that they're proposing a 2-story cottage where there was originally just a single-story cottage. So they need to get a minor variance for the additional height. So we're proposing to do a conditional permit for the foundation only to allow them to commence construction so that they don't run into issues with their insurance company. Their insurance company is requiring them to start by the end of October in order to secure their funds. So by allowing the conditional permit, this will allow them to commence construction by their deadline, and we're only allowing them to do the foundation only at this time until they get their other approvals, and then they can proceed from there with a separate permit.
Okay, thank you. So the proposed motion is that building staff report BSR 003-2021 respecting a conditional building permit 11605 Beach Road West be received, and that the Township of Wainfleet enter into a conditional building permit agreement with Kevin Baum to allow him to start construction of the foundation only to replace a cottage that was destroyed by the storm of October 31st, 2020, prior to receiving a septic permit from the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, and a minor variance from the Committee of Adjustment. Mover seconder to put that on the floor, Councillor Gilmore, Councillor McClellan, and discussion, please. Councillor McClellan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Dave, you're pretty confident that the MOE is going to give them this permit and they'll get their minor variance? I just don't want us to issue a permit and 8 months from now be fighting with them to tear out their foundation or do whatever is required. So you're involved in this. I'm just asking your opinion on it.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor McClellan. Yeah, this is something that's the MOE has issued several of these permits on Beach Road in the past few years. So I don't have any issues. I don't have any concerns in that regard. And as far as the minor variance, if they don't get the minor variance for the additional height, they can revise their drawings and submit on the same footprint for just a single-story building. So the likelihood of having to remove the foundation is pretty minor.
Thank you, sir.
And as well in section 7 of the agreement, the security, all the costs are laid there, and if they don't take it out a lien, we do it at our cost. There's a lien and all sorts of legal ramifications there. So
I just don't want to get in that battle.
okay, any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of this? Opposed? None. That is carried. Thank you. Councillor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Just before Dave leaves, I just want to address an email that I got from a resident who noted that lately we haven't been getting the building reports, and I couldn't really answer her as to why that was. I think I flipped it back to her and CC'd Will, but I just thought maybe while we had the attention of both of you, we could find out if we're going to get back to that or if we're not doing that.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gilmore. Yes, we are still doing that on a quarterly report. Unfortunately, it was an oversight on our part for the second quarter. That has been completed today and will be circulated. And then the third quarter report will be coming in the coming weeks as well.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to build on that, I believe we have also moved, instead of placing them directly on a council agenda, that they are included in your council information reports or council information packages that are circulated on a weekly basis. So each quarter you will or should be getting those reports in the information package, I believe. And again, I'll need to double check, but we'll confirm that information.
Okay, just so how does the public, like this lady who obviously is paying attention, get that information?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, all the council information packages that are circulated to you are also posted on our website. So for example, if the resident wished to access all of last year's reports, they are in the council information packages section of the town council website. So they're online. They're all posted online.
Okay, just one final comment through you, Mayor. But we still are going to get back to getting the reports quarterly at a meeting such as this.
Unless council directs you guys want it to come to a meeting as opposed to being in your information package, it would normally go into the information package.
So I have a concern with that because, excuse me, the general public, we should be making access to information like this easy, not burying it in tons of letters and information. I know for myself, I wouldn't want to have to go, going through report after report after report to find it. There should be perhaps on our website a separate page on there with the building reports on there historically. Something that's simple to find. The way we're doing it now, to me, is not acceptable. It's good for us, but not for the public to find it. It's very challenging. So, and they're going to give up before they find it. So I would ask staff to come up with a different way to do that so that it is more public, easily accessed by the public. And I think we can probably do that, Will. Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Van Vliet.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was going to say the same thing, but I don't remember having to have to pull it out of the correspondence package. I don't remember saying that at a meeting.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm fairly certain that if you look through the 2020 report, council information packages, you will see actually they were done monthly at that time, and each month you will see those reports in there. And I think in 2021, we moved from the monthly report to the quarterly report. And again, we're at your direction. If you want those quarterly reports to come to council, we can do so. If you would prefer those quarterly reports to, we can set up a separate section on the website that lists all the quarterly reports under the, for example, building services page. Lots of different options. Again, we're at your direction.
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to continue. I like that idea better because to go through the council information packages, hundreds of pages, just to save people time and energy.
It'd be great if on our, what do you want to find blank spot there, just building reports, and that goes right to it. Make it simple for the public as opposed to hard. That's an important thing. And then thank you, Councillor Gilmore, because I hadn't seen any either. I wasn't thinking about it, but it would be good to have them come to our council meeting still, I think. So I think the public like to see that. Okay, anything else on this one? Okay, that one is voted on. We're done with that one. We're moving on to our drainage staff report. And is Mr. Jemison available? Thank you. Mark, go ahead.
Great. Thank you. Good evening. Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor, to all council. Drainage staff report 15 is in response to a planning application to sever and adjust the boundaries of property assessed to the Lambert Road municipal drain. Township typically completes several of these apportionment agreements under Section 65 of the Drainage Act each year to maintain up-to-date assessment schedules.
Okay, thank you. So motion being that Drainage Staff Report 15-2021 respecting apportionment agreement Bergsma be received, and that the agreement on share of assessment attached hereto as Appendix A be approved. Mover seconder to put that on the floor, please. Councillor Van Vliet and Councillor McClellan, and discussion. Okay, I see no discussion, so all in favor and opposed, that's carried. Thank you. And we'll move to the proclamation request for Women's Place, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. Any discussion on this correspondence? So if council is supportive of this, I can't imagine we wouldn't be, but you never know. But we'll give direction to staff to draw up our own for here in Wainfleet, very similar to the one that is here as a sample, and we'll bring that back to the next meeting for to be ratified. Okay? Any other discussion on that? Okay, thank you. We don't have to vote on that, eh? That's just direction. Okay, the next one is a piece of correspondence from the city of Welland. And there's a motion approved by Welland Council approving a proposal for loan to Niagara Central Dorothy Rungling Airport Commission for construction of 10 T hangars. Any discussion on this, please? Councillor McCallum.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, August 1st, I was appointed chair of the Airport Commission. So maybe I can speak to you. We have a list of 16, possibly 18 people looking to rent hangars. We have 0 available. There's a demand for them. We don't have any, so we're looking at building, they're called nested T hangars. So you back one plane in this way and one this way, and there'd be 5 doors on it. So before we went anywhere, we started talking about it. The city of Welland had funds in their economic development account. They offered a loan. It was simple, clean, easy. Their terms weren't too bad. They were acceptable. So we're looking to try and make this airport sustainable. Last year, there was 0 increase in our ask for the municipalities. Our last commission meeting, we just passed the same thing, that there would be no increase for 2022 budget to the local municipalities. We're trying to make it sustainable. It does a service for the 4 municipalities. Our farmers fly crop dusting planes out of there. The Welland gets it, Pelham gets it. We have one industrial in Sippeter. They radar, which just worked on the new design to have drones chase birds off airports instead of somebody out there flying birds around. So that created some jobs in one of the 4 municipalities. I don't know how many people work from our area there, but we have 3 others right now that are looking and inquiring about the airport, and quite frankly, they were holding off till the word from the region was if they were coming, and when the 4 municipalities had said that we'd like to keep ownership of the airport, now they're banging on our door. So there's a potential there. This is just a way to help make it a little more sustainable. So that's what we're asking for council's blessing to okay it. I didn't make a presentation. I answered questions for the town of Pelham last week. As I told them, if this thing is not sustainable and self-sufficient, we're not going to put a shovel in the ground. So it's got to be cost-effective from day one. And all this is an okay to borrow up to $600,000 when we will bring you a business plan prior to that, before we take any loans. And I think Mr. Zorba from the city of Welland should have been in contact with Mr. Colossus. He was supposed to have been anyway. I don't know if you have hooked up, but.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, he did contact us to advise this report would be coming. to the Welland Council. And as a result, once Welland dealt with it, it was placed on, they notified us of it, and it was placed on the agenda for consideration of this council at this time.
So of the four municipalities, Welland's approved it, Pelham's approved it. Port Colborne missed it. It didn't get on the board. They ran out of time. So the last council meeting, so it should be up the next one, and it's at ours tonight, so. I guess we were asking for a vote of confidence, I guess, or
Okay.
approval.
Discussion, questions? Councillor Cridlin, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the report, Councillor McClellan. I'm not that familiar with the airport and how this all ties into Wainfleet. So other than we have a very, very small share in it. So I would likely be maybe supportive of it, but I don't know enough about the like the long term and the viability, et cetera. But I think we've already made the decision that we aren't giving it to the region. So I wouldn't mind if, staff maybe had a look at it and just kind of came back with if there's any financial component to this or anything else that I guess hits our budget. But it sounds like through Councillor McClellan, the decision tonight isn't to borrow. It might be less than that. So, but I'm not quite sure then in terms of what we would be actually voting on then tonight.
Okay, thank you. I don't think I'm not sure if you were expecting that from us or not, but I'm hearing from Councillor Cridlin, she's interested in deferring it to staff or our legal for a look at it. So Councillor Gilmore, you had your hand up there as well.
So we were looking, I didn't put this on the agenda today, or I would have asked that we would have a vote of confidence to do this or not, so everybody knows, and we don't mind going after contractors then and not waste their time. So until we know we have the financing, it is an issue. So, if you want to send it to staff, that's fine. It can come back at the next report. Other councils have passed it and say, yeah, we're okay with it. I would ask the question differently than the way it was put on the agenda tonight, but I didn't ask to put it on there yet. So I was kind of waiting for Port Colborne to do theirs, and then we would be the last. So,
Councillor Cridlin, follow up?
Yep, no, thank you, through you, Mayor. Then, so if it came back with a proper motion that you needed from us, I would support that. That would be great.
we can do that, no problem. Like I said,
There
somebody
might
else
be more
pulled it and put it
discussion
on the
before a
agenda.
motion.
Okay, Councillor Gilmore?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think this is a good idea generally for the area as a whole. I flew out of there for 10 years or so, and there's a lot of planes parked outside, and people that have them want them inside. But and I think anything that we can do to make our investment more sustainable and keep our annual costs down or reducing them is what we should be doing. In the long term, who knows what will happen to the airport? I mean, it was built, I believe, in the war.
In the 40s.
40s, so it's been there a while. It does largely serve recreational pilots. There's a bit of commercial stuff, not much. But that doesn't mean that the focus can't shift. But even so, all the people that fly recreationally out of there, if they want to hangar their plane and they can't do it, they'll either maybe go somewhere else or build their own. So it's definitely, I think there's very little downside to the township. We have, I believe, 6% stake, is that correct?
I think so, yes.
So, the downside to the remote possibility of default is not a lot more than our annual fee that we already pay to subsidize it, which I believe is in the $16,000 range, something like that. So anything that we can do to mitigate that and make it profitable, which is really what the goal should be in the first place, is a good thing. And it has the potential to be run a lot better than it has in the past. And I I think that they're on the right track. I don't have a problem with waiting for another meeting to get a proper motion, but even if we descend, then they'll still go ahead. They don't need us to come to the party. So we could vote now, or I'm fine with waiting as well.
Okay.
So
Do you have
quite-
a comment?
Yes, so quite frankly, the way it's been run, for what we've gone back, and we've spent 3 years cleaning up messes, I'm gonna tell you, my 12-year-old granddaughter wouldn't have made the deals that were made on this airport. There was bad business deals, there was bad deals all the way around. There was work that went out to tender that was done with no tendering process. It was a mess, and we're putting in rules and regulations so we can stop that and make it run like it should run. And it's been 3 years of hard work over there trying to get it done, and a lot of it we're going through lawyers to clean up messes. So I couldn't give you really reports on it, what was going on at the time, but it's getting there.
Thank you. I support everything Councilor Gilmore spoke about. Makes sense, and I do support it. My only question is, if it goes south, is there going to be a contract about who has to pay what? Is that all forthcoming, a contract between the municipalities that, like, you will pay 6% of 600,000, which for us is 36,000? Is there going to be a contract, or is it, like, because if it's open-ended, I have concerns about that, but, well.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, to council, I don't think there will be a direct contract between the township and the Airport Commission or the City of Welland with respect to this sort of loan arrangement. Again, not the lawyer, but the way the airport is structured, there is a piece of provincial legislation that sort of outlines how it operates. And the way it works is that, again, the commission is sort of an independent legal entity that is able to enter into agreements, execute contracts, construct, buy, sell, do whatever they need to do. So the commission is its own independent legal entity. As such, it's seeking a loan from Welland in the amount of $600,000 with a repayment schedule that's included in here that shows payments of $4,600 a month, which works out to around $52,000 a year, that sort of thing. And the commission can do that. The way the act reads is that where there is a shortfall in funds in the commission's annual operations, then the partner municipalities are required by law to fund that, and that funding model is based on municipal population of each of those municipalities. So again, our ratio, I think, is about 6%, because if you add up the populations of Welland, Pelham, Port Colborne, and us, it's around 100,000. So it's about 6%. So in the event that the loan, they are unsuccessful in making those loan payments, then the township would be looked to make the commission whole on a year-to-year basis, which I think based on the annual payments of $52,000, it works out to around $3,000 a year for the next 15 years that the township might be on the hook for if it falls through. If, on the other hand, the commission is able to generate revenues in excess of the $4,363 a month that the loan rate is set to be, or cover those off through other operating revenues, then this loan really would not fall back on the township in any way, shape, or form, if I'm correct.
So you are, and we didn't want to, we as a commission decided we would be open and upfront with every municipality and ask permission. We had that. We didn't want to do it. We didn't want to go there. You know, you need to know what we're doing and how we're operating, right? And if we're going to put debt, we don't want it. That's why I said if this does not figure out to work, we're going with long-term contracts for hangar opera, right? To be a 3-year contract and a 5-year contract, so that the next commission doesn't walk in and everybody, oh, well, you're my friend Harry, I'll give you a cheaper rate. And like, this is going to be fixed, and it's going to be run as a business, not as a old boys club. And that's what we're trying to fix.
Okay, thank you. So that's simply, to my question, that simply answers, there is, you know, legislation in place to look after it, because there was no information to that end, which my first question was, if it goes south, well, who does what here? So it's all there, so I'm comfortable now. I don't know if everybody else is, and if you want to make a motion, I would suggest, if you want to make that motion this evening, and unless somebody wants to defer it, Donna, you did mention that, but Councillor Cridlin?
No, thank you. Through you, Mayor. I think it's really just to make the motion. So what is it that is actually on the table other than receiving, and then maybe we'll decide. Thanks.
So if I can, then I would ask that this council vote, and the motion would be for us to be permitted to borrow up to $600,000, and believe me, we don't want to be anywhere near that, but that's the number that was picked. So if the motion would be that we have permission to go there, we will come back to you before we do it, and to Will and the treasurer anyway, if that's what you want, and to explain and show the business case.
Okay, so the motion, I'll just try to, is to support the borrowing of the $600,000 from the City of Welland by the Council of Wainfleet. That's the motion. A seconder for that, please, Councillor Gilmore. Any other discussion on that? Okay, all in favor of that motion? And opposed? Okay, one opposed. It is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
That basically concludes our evening. There's no bylaws. Are there any notices of motion? Okay, seeing none, we don't have a closed meeting this evening, so the bylaw to confirm our proceedings, that bylaw 31/2021 being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, and confirm the actions of the council at its meeting held on the 5th day of October 2021, be read and passed this 5th day of October 2021. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Gilmore, Councillor Van Vliet. Any discussion? All in favor? That is carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.